Hello, everyone, and thank you for tuning in. My name is Grace Lloyd. I use she, her, hers pronouns, and I am a Senior Assistant Director of Admission at Grinnell College. I'm also a Grinnell alum, class of 2016, and I'm originally from New Jersey. We have some awesome current students who will be joining me to give the student perspective on everything Grinnell College, and I would love to start off with Cinthia. So can you please introduce yourself first?
Yeah, sure. So hi, everyone. My name is Cinthia Romo. I am from Kansas City, Kansas, and currently I am a fourth year at Grinnell, and I'm a sociology and French double major.
Hi, everyone. I'm Seth, a fourth year from Chicago, Illinois. I'm a biology and environmental studies major, and I play baseball.
Awesome. Thank you both so much. Now, to give you some context, we'll go over all the different topics that you see right here. We're going to be covering all of these over the course of this information session. And to start off, I always like to talk about who we are as an institution. Grinnell College is located in a small town in Iowa of about 10,000 people, and the college adds 1,700 students to that number. It's a really cute college town with a movie theater, an art center, a maker's lab, delicious restaurants, a medical center, biking trails, everything you need. And our students eat, work, and volunteer in town. And one of the things that's so great is there are a lot of opportunities for the town and the students to get together as a community.
Yeah, when I think of Grinnell, I think of it as an intergenerational community that exists within the college and beyond it, outside of it. I think it's really nice living in a small town because people are so welcoming. Professors and different faculty and staff members work in town and live in town, and so there's a lot of crossover between the college and that. And I think of people like Roger Bauman, who works in the equipment cage in the athletic center, is a farmer just outside of Grinnell, but someone that I wouldn't necessarily have met had I not, been working in the equipment cage. And I think that exemplifies sort of the relationships that can grow in Grinnell and around it in the town.
Yeah, and considering our location in small town Iowa, going off of that, the fact that our students are adding to this community, this town, and also the school by coming from all over the United States and all over the world is really unique. Our students come from a variety of backgrounds and identities, and because we're a small community in a small town, our students actually get to know each other and learn from each other. And they live with each other in the dorms. They eat together in the dining hall. They participate in sports and clubs and arts and everything together. And so you really get this sense of community. But one thing that's so important to know about Grinnell is that while the college brings students from diverse backgrounds and identities to campus, it works incredibly hard to celebrate and support that diversity here too.
Yeah, I definitely agree. When I think about my experience at Grinnell, I definitely think about the Intercultural Affairs Office, and essentially like they're in charge of supporting diversity on campus and supporting students that come from marginalized backgrounds. And so I've actually become really close with the people in the Office of Intercultural Affairs. But another thing that has been really central to my experience at Grinnell, which Intercultural Affairs also supports, are the multicultural leadership student organizations. And so I'm actually a co-leader for SOUL, which is the student organization of Latinx. And this photo is actually of one of the MLC suites, and all of the multicultural student leadership orgs get their own MLC suite, and so I spend a lot of time here. But as a Latina first-gen student, I can absolutely say that I have found support from many programs, organizations, and people at Grinnell.
Thank you so much. And I mean, you might be thinking after hearing Cinthia, like, wow, this place is awesome. But why are students choosing Grinnell College? And a lot of it, at the end ends up becoming because they fall in love with the community. But at the start of the search, it has a lot to do with our curriculum, which is really unique. So we have something called an individually advised curriculum. It's similar to an open curriculum, but at Grinnell, our curriculum is designed so there's only one required class outside of the requirements of your major, and you don't even have to declare a major until spring break of your second year. So you have time. A major is typically 8 to 12 classes. That's about a third of the total classes that you need to take to graduate from Grinnell College, which means that about 2/3 of your classes are outside of your major in whatever you want. And there's very loose restrictions outside of that. And so not having general education requirements or a core curriculum that you need to get through in order to graduate means that our students have the time to be sure that what they think they want to major in really is what they want to major in. And it also gives them the flexibility to double major if they want to, or maybe declare a concentration, which is similar to a minor, maybe do both and still graduate within 4 years from Grinnell. So a student at Grinnell just has their major requirements and this one required class that a student takes their first semester, first year, which you are probably curious about. So the only required class outside of your major at Grinnell is called the first year tutorial. The class is basically a tutorial on how to be successful at Grinnell College. So the classes are really small. There's no more than 14 students. So it feels sort of like a cohort or advisory group that you're in. And the whole idea is that you are learning how to be successful at Grinnell. We have a lot of students, like we talked about, coming from different backgrounds and identities and educational backgrounds too. And so this class gets everyone on the same level, and it teaches our students how to read and write effectively. It teaches them how to do citations and group work and how to present and so much more. And the whole cool thing about it is that students have 30 to 40 different topic options to choose from for their tutorial. So it's not just a general English 101 or a Shakespeare course. And students actually rank order their top 5 topics that they want, and you get one of those top 5. And so all those skills in writing and reading and research and everything are taught through the lens of that topic that you're in. And there are some very cool topics to choose from.
Yeah, I mean, the topics really, really vary from thinking about, your microbiome to looking at Beyonce's Lemonade. And so there's really a lot of variation. My tutorial was called Cultivating Joy, and it was really, really great. It was taught by Tammy Nyden from the philosophy department. And I think of tutorial as it's kind of an intro to academic life and social life at Grinnell. Like Grace said, you're in a class with your peers, and you do learn some really foundational academic skills like citations, writing, how to make a presentation. But there's also sort of a part of the class that wants to integrate you into the community, the Grinnell College community and the Grinnell community beyond that. And so I remember my tutorial professor, every week we had to go investigate a different space on campus and write a reflection about it, which was just a good way to make us get out there and explore. And then we also took trips into the town to sort of go and interact with different agencies and people. I remember we went to the Mayflower, which is a retirement home here. We worked at Sierra, which is a little environmental property owned by the college. We worked at MICA, which is the food bank. And so it really helped us sort of, get a feel for all that's going on in the college and outside of it. It's also sort of an intro to how interdisciplinary courses are at Grinnell. Nothing exists in a vacuum. And so when talking about cultivating joy, we started thinking about philosophy and how people conceptualize joy over the years, and then sort of tailored it to neuroscience and asked ourselves, what is joy in the brain? Is it a chemical? Is it multiple chemicals? How do they change over time and interact with you? And so it's sort of an intro to that interdisciplinary focus as well. Another really cool thing is that the professor that teaches your tutorial will actually become your advisor for the first 2 years until you declare a major, which is really nice. That's great because they get to know you as a student in class and even outside of class as well. And so it's really useful for them to make recommendations for the courses you should take and things like that, because they've really gotten to know you as a person, as a student, and are really well informed to help guide you through those first couple of years.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, as Seth said, that is why the tutorial is so foundational to the entire curriculum. It's called an individually advised curriculum for a reason. And so that professor who teaches your tutorial serves as your academic advisor until you declare your major. And the whole point is that you aren't alone when you start at Grinnell. Actually, every student who starts at Grinnell has 3 different advisors from day one. You have a career advisor, which we will get more into later, a residence life advisor that helps you more on the social and residential side of living, like in the dorms and such at Grinnell, and then the academic advisor that Seth mentioned. And so that advisor helps students choose their classes, declare their major, make sure that they are challenging themselves, and also is there to help with the transition to college, because that's a big step for everyone, right? we want our students' academic experiences to be supported and guided by a professor, and that's why the whole system is set up the way it is. And because of this small community and how many faculty and staff live in the town of Grinnell or just minutes from campus, students are actually able to build connections with their professors in some really beautiful ways, even if a professor isn't their official advisor.
Yeah, absolutely. I can say that I have built wonderful relationships with all of my advisors, and I really feel like I can talk to my advisors about anything that's going on in my life. You know, we go to get coffee together, we go on walks. They invite me over to their house for dinner. Just recently, now that I'm living off campus because of COVID, I was out of Wi-Fi, and my professor was like, you know what, like come over and like just sit on my porch, and like don't worry, like I'll bake something for you. So it's just like really sweet. All of my advisors have been extremely wonderful, and I actually have some unofficial advisors as well, as Grace was mentioning. And this is actually David Harrison, one of my unofficial advisors, and I've definitely been over to his house for dinner several times. I love his dog. You also get research advisors if research is something that you decide to do. And this is actually a photo of my friend Fit doing research in environmental studies with one of his research advisors. My personal research advisors have all been amazing. Right now, you know, they're giving me lots of pep talks since I'm in the process of applying to graduate school, which has been really nice. But honestly, I feel so held and cheered on by my advisors and professors, and I truly feel like I have built relationships with them that have a great chance of lasting a lifetime.
Thank you. And I mean, like, as you can tell, advising is just such an integrated part of our entire curriculum and system here at Grinnell. And going along with that, there is another advisor that students at Grinnell can have if they're interested in off-campus studies. So a lot of students take advantage of it, as you can see. And every student who wants to go on one of those programs is assigned an off-campus study advisor. And so in a normal year, a student would meet with their OCS advisor and brainstorm programs from our list of 100 plus pre-approved ones that best fit the student's goals. Some students choose to study off campus in their junior year or their senior fall. Not usually senior spring, because we want our students to graduate with their class, and then they'll be gone for a semester or maybe a full year. So there are some really awesome major specific programs for students. So for example, if you're interested in computer science, you might go to Budapest, or economics, you might go to London or some other country that your advisor will point out that applies to your major interests. But the cool thing about Grinnell with our individually advised curriculum and how open it is that students can go abroad and not study their major if they want. The only requirement when choosing your abroad program is that you have to have an academic rationale. It cannot just be for vacation, but you can study abroad for a language that you're studying and you want to be fluent in, or for a topic that you're passionate about but maybe can't easily study in Grinnell, such as marine biology.
Yeah, so obviously there's not a lot of marine here in Iowa, and so I was really looking to get to sort of build that into my biology major. And so when I was looking at abroad programs, I actually found one in New Zealand that was really great and had a fantastic marine science department. And so my academic rationale was I actually took 3 courses in marine science while I was there, which was so great because they actually, all those classes transferred back to my overall credits at Grinnell, but they also transferred back to my major, which was really great. And yeah, I think study abroad is just such a unique chance to engage in a completely different place, you know, change things up a little bit, challenge yourself, take some different classes. I met tons of friends from all over the US and the world that I wouldn't have met. And I mean, there's so many other experiences that study abroad is going to give you that aren't academic. Obviously, academic is a huge part of it. And my academic experience was wonderful and really helped me grow you know, as a biology major and a scientist. But you get so many other skills. I mean, self-reliance. If you haven't had to cook for yourself, that might be a skill that you had to learn, myself included. And the other thing is that, I mean, living in a foreign country is such a different and unique place. And there's a whole different set of opportunities that are presented to you, which are really unique. In New Zealand, I'm a big backpacker and mountain climber. And so there's just tons of outdoor space there. And so my friends and I would go almost every weekend, go hiking or backpacking and do something outdoors. And it was, I mean, definitely one of the best semesters I've had yet, and really a fantastic experience. That's an example of the more long-term. That was a semester-long program that I went on. But in terms of off-campus study, there's so many different ways that you can sort of tailor that to your individual plan, basically. And so there's, you know, year-long options, like Grace was saying. There's semester. There's even a month to a couple weeks. So it really varies.
Yeah, definitely. So as Seth was just talking about, we actually have some course embedded travel opportunities. So if you don't want to go away for a full year or even a full semester, you definitely have the course embedded travel available to you. And what that kind of looks like is we have the Global Learning Program, which we call GLP, which is geared towards first years, but we also have other non-GLP related course embedded travel opportunities for upperclassmen. So for example, in the past GLPs that have happened, there's been Global Health Systems, and they traveled to Cuba, Costa Rica, Denmark after spending a semester learning at Grinnell about global health systems. I actually was able to go on a GLP of my own. So here are a couple of photos of that. So here's one from the Arc de Triomphe in Paris with me and my friends. But my GLP was called Tolerance and Intolerance. What does enlightenment mean today? And so we actually traveled to Paris, Berlin, and Strasbourg. In Paris, we did a Black Paris tour, a street art tour, and we looked at how does resistance manifest in art. We visited several museums, including the Louvre. Here's another photo of us hanging out by the sun in front of the Eiffel Tower, and we actually did this a lot. We even did some really fun things like salsa dancing by the sun. Dancing was kind of like a theme throughout the whole trip. In Germany, we visited Sachsenhausen, which is a concentration camp, and several World War II memorials. And this was definitely a very deep and intentional part of the trip that was super important to all of us. And of course, all of this heavy stuff balanced out with, again, more dancing and fun outings in the evening. We did karaoke, and we actually did swing dancing with our professors, which was super fun. So as a class, we definitely grew very close to our professors. And by the end of the trip, we were jokingly calling them our adopted dads. We even got the mugs that said dads. And so this was definitely an unforgettable experience that I know I will cherish for a long, long time.
Those opportunities are incredible, and the great thing is that they're accessible for students, which I think is really important too. And another unique feature of Grinnell that we like to talk about that is also made very accessible for our students to have is research. So as an only undergraduate college, our students do not have to compete against master's and PhD students for research opportunities with professors. Every student will have an in-depth research experience either in or out of the classroom before they graduate from Grinnell, and it doesn't matter what your major is. You are a studio art major, you have to do research. Same with theater, same with, of course, biology and physics, but also in philosophy, etc. And one of the most popular out-of-class research opportunities is the Mentored Advanced Project, or MAP program, where a student and a professor basically come together to focus on a topic of research together. So students can either do MAPs during the summer and receive credit as well as that stipend that you see, or they can do it during the semester and have it actually take the place of one of their classes during the semester in itself. And the cool thing is, like I said, research is in every department, and it's the same with MAPs, Mentored Advanced Projects. They are in every single department, and every MAP has a professional development requirement, which I think makes them really unique. So students either have to present their findings at a conference or at our annual on-campus research symposium, or they can publish their work either alone or with their professor. And so the whole idea is that there has to be a culmination to your research. You can't just do it and be done with it. You have to present it in a formal setting. And there's just a lot of different ways to do research. And the whole idea is we want our students to feel empowered and invested in and capable of pursuing research, whether it's on or off campus, whether it's in or out of the classroom.
Yeah, and I think, the research skills that you are going to get just in your classes alone are going to help just give you that experience to be able to pursue research opportunities, in Grinnell and outside of it, thinking about MAPs and beyond. And so for me, once again, going back to marine science, I was looking for a way to sort of get some research experience right at the end of my study abroad experience. And so I actually reached out to a PhD student who was working in the marine science department, was just like, hey, here's my resume. I would really like to work with you just to get some experience. And it worked out really well. These are actually pictures of us harvesting invasive kelp and doing a project trying to set up a market basically to fund the conservation and the removal efforts of this invasive species. And it was such a great opportunity because I had the skills and the confidence to reach out and find this on my own. And I mean, yeah, it was really cool. It's a great way to build contacts and network, and Grinnell really sets you up well to be able to find these opportunities outside of Grinnell if that's what you want. But there's also so many different opportunities within Grinnell as well, which is so great.
Yeah, definitely. So I've actually mentioned that I've gotten to do research of my own. And this is actually a photo of when I did off-campus research for a semester at the Texas-Mexico border as part of the Mellon Mays program, which is a program that Grinnell partners with that helps support students from marginalized backgrounds transform the professoriate or the academy to be more inclusive and to pioneer groundbreaking research in the social sciences and humanities, and you actually get a $7,000 stipend. So it's a really great opportunity, but as part of my research, I actually did ethnography and interviews to understand and center the lived experiences of asylum seekers at a refugee camp in Mexico that are trying to enter the US. And so as part of this, I did an internship with a nonprofit helping asylum seekers through the legal process. And sometimes I would also volunteer with the Sidewalk School on weekends, teaching kids yoga, English, and sometimes math. And so this is actually a photo of me from when I would volunteer at the Sidewalk School. And it was really hot that day, and one of the kids saw me fanning myself, so she came up to me and started fanning me as well. And I just thought that was very endearing. But this is definitely another unforgettable experience. I learned so much about how much work needs to be done in our legal system. And in that process, I also learned so much about myself and who I want to be in the world.
Thank you for sharing. And a lot of those experiences, I think, help pave the way for the next step that students go on, right? They help inspire future careers, and careers is definitely something that Grinnell takes very seriously. I mentioned before that every student gets a career advisor from day one. And so that career advisor, the whole point of that person is that they are there to start getting students to think about what they want to do post-graduation, right? You're having all of these experiences with study abroad and research, etc. And we don't want students waiting until their fourth year to start thinking about internships and other opportunities where they can expand on these experiences that they're getting at Grinnell. So students are actually required to meet with their career advisor, or their exploratory advisor is what they're called in the beginning stages of that relationship. And the whole point is that initial meeting is really relaxed. No one is expecting a student to know what they want to do for the rest of their life, but they do want to learn more about your values. Do you want to work with people? Do you want to work alone? Do you like to work and travel for a living? Or do you want to work a 9-to-5 and go home at the end of the day? And those are all very important things to know about yourself before you start applying to internships and jobs. And so the advisor is there to point out all the different opportunities for career development that students can take advantage of. So such as externships, which are basically job shadowing with alums in a specific industry you might be interested in. There's also industry tours, which is a way for students to travel to a specific location and explore an industry. So say Silicon Valley or the data industry, things like that. I believe Cinthia will talk a little more in depth about those opportunities. And then there's also internship funding available. So students can apply for funding to offset the fact that their internship might be unpaid or underpaid or in a very expensive place like San Francisco. And so in a typical summer, the majority of students that request funding from the college for their internships get that funding. And so it leads to our students having experiences with internships and job shadowing, our alumni network, and a lot more before they end up actually graduating from Grinnell. So they feel prepared for that next step.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, a common thread is advising is huge at Grinnell, and research as well. And so I myself this past summer actually did an internship with the East Carolina Coastal Ecology Lab. And it was an internship that was funded by the CLS. I wouldn't have been able to do it had they not funded it for me. And I really think that internship funding program is one of the best things they do, just because, students need experience, and often there's a lot of barriers to that. If you get a really fantastic internship that's unpaid in New York, it's really, really hard to make that work without external help. And so the CLS is absolutely huge in sort of connecting those dots, whether it's funding the cost of an apartment and food, or whether it's just buying a bus pass you can get from your house to where you're working every day. They'll sort of just bridge that gap, which is so great, and allows us, the students, to take advantage of those opportunities that are afforded to us, which is really great. And at least thinking about my internship with East Carolina, I mean, I learned so much in the course of a summer, and actually throughout this year, it's blossomed into a semester-long independent study research project, which is great. And so all that would have not been possible had it not been for the CLS. And because they can give out so much money to so many different students, almost every student has a similar story And I'll let Cinthia share hers because, yeah, I mean, research and experience is so important. And often there's a lot of barriers that inhibit or stop students from being able to take advantage of those things.
Yeah, definitely. I can say the CLS has definitely been awesome in helping me get so many different unpaid internships. So actually, my very first year, that summer, I actually did an internship at VoteSmart, which is a nonpartisan nonprofit that does unbiased research on political candidates and officials. And this is actually a photo taken on my last day there. And I ended up growing very close to everyone because of our love of plants and cacti in particular. And everybody wanted to be a part of the plant club. So we all started bringing our plants from home to put them on our desks. And my parting gift to the office was actually a bromelade plant, which they all named after me. And according to my supervisor, is still alive 2 years later. So that's pretty cool. But the CLS also has career communities who will bring speakers, host events, and inform you of job and internship opportunities in your area. So I've actually been a part of the government and social service community, and I've attended events where speakers were brought by that particular career advisor. So for example, I got to attend a panel event with several immigration lawyers who talked about what it's like to be in the profession. And this was super cool to me because it was definitely something that I was considering as a profession at the time. But the CLS also focuses on service and life. And one program that they do that through is called Alternative Break, which is a spring break program funded and co-coordinated by the CLS, where students can propose travel to other parts of the country to do service work at a nonprofit of their choosing, and then they lead a group of peers on that service trip. And so I actually led an alternative break trip with my best friend to Chicago to volunteer with the immigration nonprofit called Centro Romero, where we helped their legal, domestic violence, and library departments. We also went to museums and different cultural hubs in Chicago. And this is actually a photo of when we got stranded in Ottumwa, Iowa, waiting for the Amtrak train to take us to Chicago. And we happened to have a beach ball because the CLS emphasizes values a lot. And so we had all of our values written on that beach ball, which was super fun. And this next photo is of the group that my friend and I led to Chicago. And it was definitely a very fun trip.
Yeah, no, it's so great to hear just like about all the different experiences. And I just want to say, like, those are experiences that all of our students are able to take advantage of, right? Like Seth and Cinthia are exceptional students, but also all of our students are able to take advantage of these exceptional experiences where they travel abroad. They have these awesome alternate breaks and things like that. And so it's not something that only the few do. This is something every student has the opportunity to take advantage of. And I know we've been talking about academics and study abroad and research and careers for a while. And I do know that it's important to take a minute to let you both talk about student life and weekends and events and just what you do for fun when you're at Grinnell College.
Yeah, definitely. So actually, this is a photo of my friend Fit, who you saw earlier's first snowfall. And we had actually just left the local movie theater after watching Coco when that came out. I think it was like our first year. So there's definitely a lot of fun things that you can do in town. You can go to the local movie theater. You can go to delicious restaurants, as Grace was mentioning earlier. But we also have a ton of things on campus. So we actually have pre-orientation programs. So when you're a first year, you can come to campus and you can actually make friends through these programs. And I was part of PC Pop, which is the Peer Connections pre-orientation program. There's an international student version of that, as well as a STEM version of that. So if you're interested in that, definitely look into it. But in terms of like student life, also more generally, we have Harrison Gardner themed parties if you're really into partying and dancing. So you can like dress up and then go. But if you're not into that, we also have weekend events. And we literally have a group called Weekend, and like they just get together and play games, and you can win like super cool prizes. So that's also really fun. Usually we'll also have like student organizations put on events on the weekend as well. So as I mentioned earlier, I am a co-leader for Soul, and usually every year we put on a quinceañera, which is a coming of age party when Latina girls turn 15. And so we'll usually throw one for somebody in our organization that didn't get to have one when they turned 15. And so that's always really fun. But we also have like other MLC organizations networks put on stuff like SASO, which is the Student Asian student organization, and they'll do Diwali and things like that. If you're interested in the arts, more than 500 students are involved in the arts every academic year. So you can go to theater shows, you can participate in them, and there's usually 3 to 4 semester. They're also free, so you never have to worry about accessibility. There's also like improv shows, so you can definitely go see a lot of these events. But we also have student concerts, and we've had some pretty big people come in the past, like Lizzo and Big Thief, and I'm gonna pass it to Seth because I know that he has an awesome story about Big Thief.
Yeah, actually, my whole family are big Thief fans, and so it was Parents Weekend, my second year actually, when Big Thief was coming into town on that Friday night, and yeah, I remember having dinner with my parents, and they were like, you know, what's going on tonight? And I was like, oh, Big Thief is in town. They're gonna play a show, and it's gonna be awesome. And I was like, you guys should come along. It's totally free. And so they did. And I just think it's awesome that I got to go to a concert at my college with my parents. And yeah, because everything on campus really is free, you do get a lot of community members coming in and engaging in that stuff. And so I remember my parents were like worried about being the only, you know, non-college students at the Big Thief show. And that was definitely not the case. People came from far and wide to see that because it was a really cool show. And yeah, I mean, I think that's not uncommon. People do come in and enjoy. And also I want to mention, I think this exemplifies how tightly knit of a community is, but we've mentioned Fit a couple times, and Fit is actually my housemate. He lives right below me. And so Grinnell really is a very tightly knit community in that way. And it's really nice.
Yeah, definitely. So we actually also have a lot of political organizations on campus to exemplify more of like the tight-knit community as well. And because of all of the political activity that we have on campus, we have a lot of political candidates and officials that will come. So this is a photo of when I met Elizabeth Warren, which was super cool because I was volunteering for her campaign at the time. And I know that Seth also has a lot of stories about social justice and activism. So I'll let him talk a little bit about that as well.
Yeah, I mean, there's tons of opportunities to get involved. I myself was volunteering with Iowa Democratic Party Voter Protection Unit. And so there's tons of opportunities for that. I'm also really interested in sustainability and conservation. And so co-founded an organization called Farmhouse that's about bringing agricultural sustainability back to our campus. And so this picture is actually from earlier last February, where there was a bill on the floor of the Iowa Senate that was looking to end CAFOs, or factory farms, which are fairly common throughout Iowa. And so we actually took a group of 15 Grinnell students to the Iowa legislature to talk to the Poweshiek County, the county that Grinnell is in, our legislator, and talk to him about CAFOs. And another cool thing that when I think about political participation in Iowa is actually both Cinthia and I got to caucus earlier this year, which was really unique, and I think was something that I'd heard about in the news and on TV a lot, but had never actually got to participate in. And it was really fun because it was like a mix of community members, students, professors, all in this one room, sort of talking about politics and our different views, and I really enjoyed that. But another thing, I think I mentioned this at the beginning, I'm an athlete at Grinnell. I play baseball, and that's definitely a big part of the things that I do at Grinnell. Just to mention a few stats about athletics at Grinnell, we are an NCAA Division III school. About 1 in 3 of our students is involved in athletics, and we have about 20 varsity sports and 10 club sports, the most popular of which are the Ultimate Frisbee team, which actually practices right in the middle of campus, and so it's fun when you're walking to class, you'll see them throwing the Frisbee around, and also the water polo team. And then our sports are split into fall, winter, and spring sports as well. And when I think about athletics at Grinnell, the thing that jumps out to me, really similarly to other parts of this community, is it really does feel like a family. My team in particular is really tightly knit. In fact, they are always sitting in the same part of the dining hall, which is really, really nice when like I'm running late and I'm going to lunch and I have nowhere to sit. There's always team members that I can sit with, which I really, really appreciate. But even in a larger sense, the athletic community is really tightly knit. You know, everyone uses the Bear, which is our athletic center, together, and so you really get to know the other athletes, which is really, really nice. I will also say that coaches are really understanding of the academic rigors of being a Grinnell student, and so they are, you know, totally willing to let you, you know, skip a practice to take advantage of a really cool lecture that's coming to town, or if you're going to talk to the Iowa legislature, that was something I got to skip practice for too. And so they're cognizant of, you know, the opportunities that Grinnell provides and don't want to limit you in that regard. Besides sports, I also really, really love the outdoors. And so that's a big thing that I try to do. I try to get outside at least once a day. And I have found a bunch of sort of nature and state preserves in and around Grinnell. We mentioned Sierra, which is owned by the college, and it's a little property of some really nice woods and some tall grass prairie as well. But there's a bunch of state parks in and around Grinnell. I would say 5 or 6 that are within walking or biking distance, and then even more that are a short drive away. And yeah, I think people think that there's not much wildlife in Iowa, but there's actually a lot more than you think. Over the course of this year, I've seen bald eagles in winter. They actually congregate in different spots in Iowa, right around Grinnell. I've seen deer, muskrat, foxes, pheasants, tons of different things. I actually just saw an owl the other day, which was a fantastic sighting. And then lastly, I think coming from Chicago to Grinnell, something that I've always appreciated about living in a small town is just being able to see the stars. And they are so much better in Grinnell than they are in Chicago. And so this picture was actually taken earlier this summer of just a beautiful night when you can see the Milky Way spread out over the sky. And I think that's something that's really, really cool about, being in town and being able to look up and see the stars from wherever you are. First years, if you're watching, I would say that the soccer fields are the best place to go stargazing. So pro tip.
Thank you so much. No, it's awesome to hear from you guys as students, just like what there is available to be involved in. Even though this is a small town, it's got so much going on. It's such a vibrant community. And I know we only have a couple of minutes left. And so with our last few moments, I wanted to ask you both, just reflecting on your time at Grinnell so far, like, how has it been for you? And like, what are your takeaways from this experience?
Sure. I guess I can answer first. So I'll say, like, as a first generation student, the process of applying to college was very daunting. It was very uncertain. And yeah, I didn't really know very much about Grinnell when I arrived. But I will say that I don't regret coming to Grinnell. I don't regret a single moment of it. I think that if I had the option to choose Grinnell again, I 1000% would. So yeah, overall, I think reflecting on my experience, I think that there's never been a dull moment, and I've loved every single part of it.
Yeah, I mean, there never is a dull moment. I remember there was a time where I was initially worried about going to school in Iowa. I didn't really know what was going on here. But the time I've spent here has really grounded me, on earth. And in particular, I think about, my academic interests in biology and the environment. And my time in Iowa has really helped me understand, where myself as a human fits in on this planet, and how, individual actions really have a ripple effect. And that's something that I think is really unique, to the time I've spent in Grinnell and in Iowa. And yeah, it's really helped me grow and sort of understand the different ways that our world is interconnected, which is something that I really appreciate. And I don't know that I would have got to a similar effect in other places.
Awesome. Well, thank you both so much. And to anyone watching, thank you for tuning in for this information session. We hope that this helped you get a better sense of what Grinnell is about from current students, and really get to know Grinnell a little better from wherever you are tuning in from today. If you have questions about admission or financial aid, there are all these contacts listed on this slide. Please take advantage of them. We are admission counselors, financial aid counselors. We're here to help you through this process and advise you. And so just know you can always reach out, and we are happy to help. And with that, I just want to say thank you again for watching, and have a great rest of your day.